The morning sun stretched its golden fingers across the edge of the distant planet, casting long shadows over the barren landscape. The team of explorers stood on the observation deck of the survey ship Aurora, staring at the silhouette that had appeared on their scanners hours before. At first, it looked like nothing more than a drifting shadow against the stars, but as they approached, the enormity of it became clear. The ancient ship loomed in the void, its hull pitted and scarred by time, yet majestic in its silent presence. It was alive, though not in any way humanity had known life before. Dr. Alara Naim, the lead xenotechnologist, pressed her hand to the glass. Her breath fogged the view as she studied the lines of the vessel. It was massive, bigger than any human-made ship by centuries, yet elegant. Its surfaces were smooth, curving in impossible ways, adorned with patterns that seemed to shift when one looked directly at them. "It's incredible," she whispered, mostly to herself. Captain Rhys Tolland stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "Incredible. Yes," he said slowly, "but it's also been dead for a long time. The energy readings are faint. Minimal life signs, if any. We need to be cautious." Alara shook her head. "I don't think it's dead. Look at the hull, there's subtle movement. It's reacting to the sunlight. I think it's waking up." "Waking up?" Tolland repeated, skeptical. "Yes," she said firmly. "The patterns, the faint vibrations. It's as if the ship is aware we are here." Krav. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Ships didn't wake up. Machines didn't have awareness. Yet the evidence was there. Instruments recorded harmonic pulses that did not correspond to any known physical phenomenon. The ship was communicating, in its own ancient, subtle way. Aboard the Aurora, the excitement was tangible. This discovery could change everything. Humanity had explored distant systems, surveyed hundreds of planets, and even established colonies in nearby star systems. But they had never encountered a vessel like this, an artifact of a civilization that had reached far beyond human understanding, yet still present, still alive in some way. The decision was made. A landing team would board the ship. Alara, Captain Tolland, and a small group of explorers prepared for the mission. Their suits were sleek, designed for both environmental adaptation and zero-gravity movement. But nothing could prepare them for the weight of awe pressing against their minds. The landing shuttle detached from the Aurora, gliding toward the ancient ship with quiet precision. As they approached, the magnitude of the vessel became overwhelming. It stretched further than the shuttle's sensors could fully map. Its hull bore the marks of time, yet the smoothness of its curves suggested careful design and thought far beyond human engineering. Alara's eyes were fixed on a series of faintly glowing symbols along the ship's surface. They pulsed in slow rhythm, almost breathing. "Do you see that?" she asked over comms. It's alive. The ship is responding to us." Captain Tolland glanced at her from the shuttle's controls. "Or it's malfunctioning. Sometimes old ships give off strange energy signals." Alara shook her head. "No, it's deliberate. The patterns are too regular, too purposeful. Look." She pointed to the way the glow shifted as the shuttle drew closer. "It's observing us, learning us." The shuttle docked with a gentle click, the mechanisms fitting together as if welcoming them. Inside, the ship was even more magnificent. The corridors stretched far beyond the limits of human imagination, walls shimmering with light that moved like water. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something sweet, almost floral. There were no signs of previous life. Yet the place was alive in an intangible way, humming with energy. Alara led the team cautiously. Every step echoed, yet the sound seemed absorbed, as if the ship was guiding them. The walls responded to their presence, the light shifting and flowing around them, highlighting paths as if to welcome them deeper. The explorers felt as though they were walking through the consciousness of the ship itself. In a central chamber, the team found a massive console of alien design. It had no buttons, no levers, nothing humans could understand as a control mechanism. Instead, the surface was a smooth field of light, and as Alara approached, the patterns pulsed faster, almost impatiently. She tentatively reached out. The light met her fingertips, and a warmth spread through her hand. A sound vibrated in her mind, soft, musical, like a chord played on 100 instruments at once. Images flashed in her consciousness, stars spinning in perfect harmony, planets teeming with life, civilizations rising and falling in cycles of beauty and wisdom. She stumbled back, breathless. "What did you see?" Tolland asked, concern in his voice. "It's memories," she said, struggling for words. "The ship. It remembers everything. Not just where it has been, but the life it has seen, the civilizations it has encountered, and it's sharing them with me." The other explorers looked skeptical but couldn't deny the effect. As Alara's hands hovered over the console, the room seemed to breathe along with her. Patterns shifted and moved like a living thing, connecting the team to events and places they had never witnessed. There were no wars, no violence, only growth, understanding, and exploration. For hours, they wandered, guided by the ship. It led them to chambers filled with devices that hummed gently, displaying holographic representations of distant worlds, flora and fauna, strange architectures, the rise of civilizations all projected in delicate light. It was knowledge beyond human comprehension, yet it felt harmonious, inviting rather than overwhelming. Dr. Naeem noted the patterns carefully, documenting every detail. The ship was teaching them, but not through language, as humans knew it. It communicated through emotion, intuition, and imagery. Each explorer felt a personal connection, tailored to their mind and understanding. Even Captain Tolland, usually stoic and rational, felt a sense of awe and humility he had never experienced. As the day drew on, the sun of the distant planet rose higher, and the ship's hum intensified. It was no longer subtle, it was a deep, resonant sound, like the voice of an ancient being, greeting the light and life of the universe. The explorers realized that the ship had been waiting for them, or for something like them to arrive. It had endured centuries of solitude, carrying memories of life across the galaxy, and now it was awakening. Alara placed her hand again on the console. This time, she felt not only the memories but a presence, a sense of hope and expectation. The ship seemed to ask questions, curious about its new visitors. Who were they? What did they value? Could they understand the wonders it had witnessed without destroying them? Tolland spoke quietly, almost to himself. "We are standing on the edge of something, beyond anything we imagined. This is bigger than exploration. This is a conversation with history itself." Alara nodded, eyes still on the glowing patterns. "And not just history. It's a chance to learn from the past, to see what life can be when it is guided by curiosity and care, rather than fear and conquest." For a long moment, they stood in silence, listening to the ship's slow, steady pulse. The sunlight on the hull created a shimmering effect, highlighting the majesty of the vessel and the wisdom it carried. The ancient ship, once lost to time, had begun to awaken, and humanity was there to witness it. The explorers settled in for the night, though sleep was difficult. The ship's presence was both comforting and overwhelming. Every sound, every shift of light, seemed purposeful. They realized that this was only the beginning. The vessel had more to reveal, more to teach about the universe, about life, and about themselves. Dr. Naeem felt a strange connection to the ship, as if it recognized her curiosity, her willingness to understand, and her respect for life. She made a promise silently, to honor the knowledge it shared and to carry it forward without corruption or greed. The weight of that responsibility pressed upon her, but it was a weight she welcomed. As the first full day aboard the ancient ship ended, the explorers gathered near the observation deck. Outside, the stars shimmered in the vast darkness, and the planet below glowed softly under the rising sun. The ship groaned once more, a deep, sonorous sound that resonated through their bones. It was no longer the groan of pain or age, it was a sound of awakening, of life stirring after a long, silent slumber. And humanity, small but curious, had arrived just in time to witness it. For the first time, they understood that the universe was not just a space to conquer, but a story to listen to, a memory to respect, and a song to join. And they had been given the chance to sing alongside the oldest, wisest traveler they would ever meet. The sunrise painted the hull in brilliant golds and silvers. The ship seemed to shimmer in approval. And Alara whispered, almost in awe, "We've awakened more than a ship. We've awakened hope." The team knew that what lay ahead would challenge everything they thought they knew about life, intelligence, and humanity's place in the galaxy. But for now, in that quiet, golden morning, they simply watched and listened, ready to learn from a being that had seen the rise and fall of countless stars, civilizations, and dreams. And in the silence, the ship moaned again softly, gently, like the echo of a long, painful sleep finally ending. The ancient ship hummed softly, a steady vibration that seemed to flow through the corridors and chambers like a heartbeat. Each step the explorers took felt guided, as if the ship itself was moving them along the path it wished them to follow. Dr. Alara Naim led the team, her eyes wide with wonder and careful focus. The ship had awakened, but it was not frantic or chaotic. Its movements, its lights, and even the soft harmonic sounds it made were deliberate, inviting, and, strangely, comforting. Captain Rhys Tolland kept close, scanning every surface, every corner, and every flicker of light. His instincts told him that the vessel could be as dangerous as it was magnificent. Yet nothing in the way it interacted with them suggested hostility. The energy readings, once faint, had begun to strengthen. The ship was alive in a sense they could not fully measure, responding to the presence of intelligent beings who approached it with care. "This is remarkable," Alara said, her voice soft as she traced a glowing symbol along a smooth wall. The pattern shifted under her fingertips, and a series of harmonic tones filled the chamber. They were subtle at first, barely audible, but over time they formed a rhythm that resonated deep within her mind. She blinked and realized she was seeing images vivid, fleeting images of worlds bathed in golden sunlight, oceans teeming with life, forests stretching endlessly, cities crafted in beauty and balance. Tolland frowned slightly. "Are these visions or projections of some kind?" "I think they are memories," Alara replied. "The ship remembers the worlds it has visited and the life it has seen, and it is sharing them with us." The rest of the team moved closer, drawn by the images. Each member experienced a unique vision tailored to their perspective, revealing not only the external worlds, but also the ideas and emotions of the beings who had once thrived there. The experience was immersive, calming, and humbling. The crew began to understand that this ship was more than a vessel. It was a living library of civilizations, a guide and a teacher. Dr. Naim carefully documented everything, noting the changes in patterns and vibrations. She realized that the ship did not communicate in words or symbols as humans did. Instead, it communicated through emotion, intuition, and imagery, using subtle light, sound, and movement to convey complex ideas. The experience felt personal, as if the ship recognized each human individually and responded to their thoughts and intentions. Hours passed as the team explored further. The ship led them to a chamber unlike any they had seen before. The walls were transparent, revealing the expanse of space outside, and the floor was made of a shimmering material that seemed to absorb their weight while supporting them effortlessly. In the center of the room floated a massive sphere, composed of interwoven light and energy. It pulsed with a rhythm that matched the harmonic tones the ship had been producing. Alara stepped forward, hesitant but curious. As her fingers hovered near the sphere, a rush of images filled her mind, worlds forming from stardust, intelligent life evolving, civilizations learning and growing. The sphere was a representation of knowledge, a condensed map of experiences and lessons from countless species across the galaxy. "This is incredible," she whispered. "It's as if the ship has preserved the wisdom of the cosmos itself." Tolland, standing beside her, felt the weight of the moment. And it's sharing it with us. Humanity has never encountered anything like this before. The potential. The responsibility. He trailed off, awed. The ship, through subtle vibrations and shifting light, seemed to respond to their thoughts. It was curious, asking questions not with words but with emotion and tone. It wanted to know what humanity would do with such knowledge. It had observed countless species rise and fall, and now it was testing them not for their strength or their courage, but for their wisdom, empathy, and understanding. As the explorers spent time within the chamber, they began to notice patterns. The ship reacted positively to cooperation, curiosity, and thoughtful observation. It dimmed lights or slowed vibrations when it detected fear or anxiety, and it intensified its glow and harmonic tones when it sensed engagement and appreciation. It was as if the ship was alive, but not like humans or animals. It was alive in understanding, memory, and purpose. Dr. Naeem and the team realized that the ship was teaching them, guiding them not through force or instruction, but through experience. Every corridor, every chamber, every projection was a lesson, and humanity, for the first time, was truly listening not to survive, not to conquer, but to understand. In one chamber, they discovered a field of floating orbs, each glowing with a different color and intensity. As Ilara approached an orb, it responded, projecting a memory of a civilization that had thrived in harmony with its environment. Humans learned how this species had built cities without harming nature, created energy from sunlight and wind, and maintained peace through mutual respect and communication. There was no mention of wars or destruction, only growth, creativity, and cooperation. The explorers watched in awe. "It's teaching us what life can be," whispered Ilara. "Not just surviving, but thriving, without hurting others." Talon nodded, still processing the enormity of what they were seeing. "And we're capable of that too. We just have to learn how." Hours turned into days as they explored deeper. The ship revealed more visions, more lessons, more reminders of the beauty and fragility of life. Each day, humanity felt a growing connection to the ship. They began to understand that it had not been adrift and abandoned. It had been waiting for species like theirs. It had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall. But it had always hoped to find one capable of learning, of understanding, and of valuing life itself. The explorers began to experiment with communication. They tried gestures, tones, and emotions, and found that the ship responded to their intentions more than their actions. When they worked together, the ship pulsed brighter, projecting more detailed and vivid visions. When one explorer acted selfishly or with hesitation, the light dimmed slightly and the harmonic tones slowed. Through these interactions, the team learned that the ship was not only a repository of knowledge, but also a teacher of ethics, empathy, and cooperation. It rewarded understanding and harmony and subtly corrected errors in perception or intent. Humanity had never experienced such feedback from a non-human entity before. It was enlightening, humbling, and inspiring all at once. One day, as the explorers rested in a chamber bathed in soft golden light, the ship projected a vision unlike any they had seen. It showed a future where humanity traveled the stars not to conquer or exploit, but to explore, learn, and help other civilizations thrive. It showed humans collaborating with alien species, sharing knowledge and culture, and building a galaxy filled with understanding and respect. Ilara felt tears prick her eyes. "It's showing us what we could be," she whispered. Talon's expression was serious, filled with thought. "And it's asking if we're ready, if we're capable of it." The ship's response came not in words, but in light and sound. The chamber glowed with a steady warmth, a hum that vibrated through their very bones. It was patient, waiting for them to understand, waiting for them to choose the path they would take. As the days passed, the team realized that the ancient ship was teaching more than knowledge. It was teaching perspective. It showed them the beauty of patience, the value of empathy, and the importance of curiosity without greed. The ship itself had learned these lessons through its long existence, and now it offered them to humanity. The explorers began to apply these lessons in subtle ways. They worked together more closely, shared insights, and respected each other's observations. Conflicts that arose were resolved not through argument or command, but through understanding and communication. Even Captain Tolland, usually pragmatic and cautious, found himself moved by the ship's quiet lessons, embracing patience and reflection in a way he never had before. Ilara realized that the ship's awakening was not just a physical phenomenon, it was a dialogue, a process of mutual discovery. Humanity was learning from the ship, and the ship was learning about humanity. Together, they were exploring not just space, but the essence of life, consciousness, and the potential for goodness in intelligent beings. At the end of what felt like a long day, the explorers gathered on the observation deck. Outside, the planet below glowed softly under the setting sun, and the stars stretched endlessly across the black sky. The ship's hull pulsed with gentle light, its harmonic tones resonating like a song. "This is just the beginning," Ilara said softly. "We've only seen a fraction of what it knows, and I think it's only just beginning to understand us as well." Tolland nodded, his gaze distant. "We have a responsibility now, not just to ourselves, but to the life we carry within us and the life we may encounter. The ship is teaching us to be more than explorers, it's teaching us to be guardians of understanding and knowledge." The ship hummed in response, almost approvingly. The light shifted to a warm golden hue, enveloping the humans in a gentle glow. They realized that this vessel, ancient and vast, was not merely a ship, it was a mentor, a friend, and a guide. And humanity, small and new, had been chosen to witness and learn. As night fell over the distant planet, the explorers rested, but sleep did not bring escape. Dreams were filled with visions from the ship, distant worlds, rising civilizations, and moments of profound beauty and learning. Humanity's connection to the ship deepened, and with it came understanding, hope, and a sense of purpose that reached far beyond the stars. When the first light of the next day touched the hull, the ship moaned again, soft and deep, a sound of awareness and awakening. The explorers knew that this was only the beginning of their journey, and that the lessons they learned here would shape the future of humanity in ways they could not yet fully comprehend. The ancient ship had awakened, and humanity had begun to awaken with it toward wisdom, understanding, and the hope of a brighter future. The explorers had begun to understand that the ship was not merely a machine, but a living archive of the universe. Its light and harmonics revealed more than knowledge, they reflected understanding, guidance, and hope. Humanity, in turn, had begun to respond in kind, learning to move with care, observe with curiosity, and think with empathy. Each day aboard the ancient ship strengthened this connection. Dr. Ilara Naim had spent hours studying the patterns of light, the vibrations that hummed beneath the hull, and the subtle energy shifts in the chambers. She realized the ship communicated most clearly when humans acted not out of fear or desire, but out of curiosity and kindness. When the explorers worked together to solve simple puzzles within the ship, the responses became more complex, projecting entire worlds, civilizations, and lessons in ways that words could not describe. Captain Tolland watched carefully, recognizing the value in the lessons the ship provided. It was not just information, it was perspective. Through the ship, humanity could witness the rise and fall of civilizations, the delicate balance between growth and sustainability, and the beauty of coexistence. These visions were not merely historical, they were ethical, philosophical, and deeply human in their relevance. One morning, Ilara led the team into a chamber filled with suspended crystalline structures. Each crystal contained faint glimmers of light and color, shifting as the explorers approached. When a hand brushed against a crystal, it projected a vision, a world where intelligent life had flourished in harmony with its environment. Cities were built in the shapes of trees. Forests thrived alongside human-like beings, and energy was drawn from sunlight and wind with careful consideration. The explorers watched, awed by the beauty of the design. "It's teaching us more than technology," Ilara said softly. "It's teaching us how to live with respect for ourselves, for our planet, and for others." Tolland nodded. We've spent centuries learning to survive, to explore, to build, but rarely to live wisely. This ship, it's showing us the missing pieces. As the days passed, the team began experimenting further. They learned that the ship responded to thought, intention, and emotion more than physical actions. When they approached a chamber in harmony, all working together to understand the projection before them, the light pulsed brighter. The harmonic tones resonated in perfect clarity, and the visions became more vivid and complex, but the ship also challenged them. In one chamber, it projected a world in chaos, a civilization on the brink of collapse due to misunderstanding, greed, and neglect. The explorers watched as the inhabitants failed to cooperate, fought over resources, and slowly lost the balance that once made their society thrive. The vision ended with the planet falling silent, the cities empty, the oceans still. Ilara shivered. It's not just showing us beauty. It's showing us what happens when wisdom is ignored. Tolland placed a hand on her shoulder. And it's asking us to consider our own path. We're learning from these lessons so we don't repeat the mistakes of others. The explorers realized that this was the true purpose of the ship. It was not merely a vessel of knowledge, it was a mentor, teaching through example, guiding not with force, but with insight. Humanity had never encountered a teacher like this before, one that conveyed wisdom without judgment, one that showed possibilities without demanding action. In the following days, the ship introduced more complex challenges. Certain chambers required the explorers to collaborate in entirely new ways. One projection displayed a galaxy filled with intelligent life. The explorers had to anticipate the needs and perspectives of the various species to unlock the full vision. Cooperation, empathy, and careful observation were the keys. At first, the team struggled. Old habits of skepticism, haste, and self-interest crept in. But slowly, they adapted. They learned to listen to each other, to trust each other's insights, and to act in unity. And each time they succeeded, the ship responded with deeper revelations. Planets rich with culture, species that had mastered communication without conflict, and civilizations that had solved problems through shared understanding rather than domination. Ilara began keeping detailed notes of each experience, recording the patterns, the lessons, and the responses of the ship. She realized that humanity had been given more than a glimpse of knowledge, it had been given a roadmap to growth, ethics, and understanding. The ship's memory was vast, its patience infinite, and its wisdom profound. One evening, the explorers entered a chamber filled with spheres of light, each containing a representation of life from a different corner of the galaxy. As they watched, the spheres began to interact with one another, demonstrating collaboration, innovation, and care. The explorers saw how civilizations could thrive when they respected one another, shared knowledge, and worked together toward common goals. "This is what we can be," Ilara said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Not just surviving in the galaxy, but thriving together with other species, with nature, and with ourselves." Tolland studied the projections quietly. "It's a vision. Yes, but it's also a challenge. Are we ready to live this way? Can humanity rise to meet it?" Ilara smiled faintly. "I think we're beginning to understand. The ship is guiding us to see the best of what we can be." The explorers spent many days in this chamber, observing, learning, and reflecting. Each vision offered new insights. Methods of sustainable energy, ways to organize communities that valued fairness and creativity, and approaches to communication that prioritized empathy and clarity. Humanity's potential was unfolding before them, and the ship was showing them how to reach it. One night, Ilara awoke from a dream filled with the ship's visions. She saw herself walking among stars, planets of every color and design surrounding her. Intelligent beings of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully, communicating and cooperating in ways that felt natural, peaceful, and wise. The dream was vivid, almost tangible, and she realized the ship was teaching even in sleep. When she shared the dream with the team, they all reported similar experiences. The ship's guidance extended beyond conscious learning. It reached their subconscious, planting seeds of understanding, patience, and hope. It was teaching humanity not just to think differently, but to feel differently, to perceive the universe with empathy and care. As the explorers grew more attuned to the ship, they noticed subtle changes in its responses. The lights became brighter, the harmonic tones more intricate, and the projections more detailed. It was as if the ship recognized their progress and was rewarding their efforts with deeper knowledge. Humanity was evolving in understanding, guided not by domination, but by learning, collaboration, and respect. Dr. Naeem observed the patterns carefully. The ship is not just teaching us about other civilizations, she said. It's teaching us about ourselves, about what we could become if we value wisdom over power, cooperation over conquest, and knowledge over ignorance. Talon nodded. We've been explorers. Yes. But this is something more. The ship is showing us what it means to be truly intelligent, truly conscious, and truly responsible. One day, the ship projected a vision of humanity's own planet. They saw cities flourishing alongside forests, oceans sparkling with life, and people working together in harmony. Technology enhanced nature rather than harming it, and humans interacted with their environment with care and understanding. The vision was not a prediction, but a possibility, a reflection of what humanity could achieve if it applied the lessons of the ship. Alara felt a surge of hope. This is what we can do, she whispered. We can be like this. We have the chance to build a future that the ship would be proud of. Talland placed a hand on the console, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath his fingers. And the ship believes we can. It has chosen to teach us because it sees potential in us. Now it is up to us to realize it. The explorers spent hours reflecting on the lessons, discussing how they could carry them forward beyond the ship. They realized that the knowledge they were gaining was not just scientific or technological, it was philosophical, ethical, and emotional. It was a guide to becoming better humans, to understanding the responsibilities that come with intelligence and freedom. As the days turned into weeks, the explorers began to experiment with transmitting some of the lessons back to their own planet. They discussed new approaches to energy, communication, and cooperation, inspired by the ship's guidance. They understood that humanity's future depended not on conquest or competition, but on collaboration, curiosity, and care. The ship seemed to respond positively to these efforts. The lights pulsed warmly. The harmonic tones resonated deeply, and the projections became even more vivid. It was as if the vessel recognized that its teachings were taking root, that humanity was beginning to grow in wisdom and understanding. One evening, as the explorers gazed out at the stars, the ship produced a new vision, a galaxy filled with intelligent life, all cooperating, learning, and thriving together. It was a vision of unity, harmony, and shared knowledge. The explorers felt a profound sense of purpose and responsibility. They realized that this was the ultimate lesson of the ship. The universe was vast, but life could flourish everywhere, if beings chose understanding over destruction, cooperation over conflict. Alara whispered softly. We have the chance to make this real. Not just for us, but for everyone who comes after us. The ship is showing us the way. Talland smiled faintly. And it's teaching us that the greatest journey is not through space, but through understanding, through learning how to be the best we can be. As the sun rose on the distant planet, the ship moaned softly, a deep, resonant sound that seemed almost like laughter, or perhaps a sigh of contentment. It was the sound of an ancient being pleased with its students, the sound of hope awakening alongside knowledge. The explorers knew that the journey was far from over. There were still lessons to learn, visions to explore, and understandings to uncover. But they also knew that humanity was changing. The ship had planted seeds of wisdom, empathy, and cooperation. And now, it was up to them to nurture them. For the first time, they felt truly connected, not just to the ship or to each other, but to the universe itself. They realized that knowledge was not enough. Understanding, care, and curiosity were what made a civilization thrive. And humanity, small and young, had the chance to rise to the challenge. The ancient ship had awakened, and in doing so, it had awakened humanity to its potential. It was a potential not measured by strength, conquest, or fear, but by curiosity, compassion, and the ability to learn from the universe itself. And as the explorers gazed at the horizon, where the first light of a new day touched the ship's hull, they understood something profound. The greatest journeys were not through space, but through understanding, through wisdom, and through the heart. The ship moaned again, softly, like a gentle reminder that learning was endless, that discovery was infinite, and that humanity had only just begun to awaken to its true potential. The ship pulsed softly, alive in ways the explorers still struggled to fully understand. It had guided them for weeks, teaching them lessons not just of technology or knowledge, but of perspective, ethics, and cooperation. Humanity was beginning to awaken to possibilities it had never imagined, and now, it was time to see what could be done with what they had learned. Dr. Ilara Naim stood at the observation deck, watching the rising sun of the distant planet. The light bathed the ancient vessel in gold and silver, reflecting across its smooth hull. "We've learned so much," she whispered. "But the real challenge begins when we take this knowledge with us." Captain Reese Tolland, standing beside her, nodded thoughtfully. "It's one thing to understand the lessons inside these walls. It's another to carry them beyond, into a world that hasn't seen what we have." The crew had spent the last few days consolidating their experiences. They documented the ship's teachings on collaboration, sustainable living, communication, and empathy. They created careful notes on the visions of thriving civilizations, the ethical dilemmas faced by countless species, and the ways communities had worked together to overcome challenges. The ship's knowledge was vast, but the explorers had begun to distill it into practical lessons for humanity. Ilara walked through the main chamber once more, touching the glowing consoles and crystalline structures. The ship responded with subtle vibrations. As if acknowledging her respect, she felt a deep sense of gratitude toward the ancient vessel. "We have to honor this," she said softly to herself. "We can't waste what it has given us." The ship's guidance grew more profound as they explored further. It introduced them to complex systems that humans had never conceived, ways to generate energy without harming ecosystems, methods to communicate across vast distances without interference, and techniques to collaborate on global projects with fairness and transparency. Every projection, every harmonic pulse, every shift in light carried a message. Understanding is more powerful than force, patience more effective than haste, and empathy more transformative than fear. One chamber, in particular, captivated the team. It displayed the rise of countless civilizations, not through conquest or war, but through cooperation and learning. Beings of diverse shapes and abilities worked together, sharing knowledge and supporting each other. The explorers saw how civilizations had solved resource scarcity through innovation, how they resolved conflicts through dialogue, and how they ensured every individual's contribution was valued. Ilara touched one of the floating orbs, and a vision of a human colony on a distant planet appeared. Unlike their current settlements, these communities lived in harmony with the environment. Cities were built among trees, water systems flowed naturally, and energy was drawn from sunlight, wind, and the planet's natural cycles. People communicated openly, worked together for the common good, and celebrated creativity. It was a vision of humanity at its best. "This is what we can become," Ilara said softly. "This is the future we can build, if we carry the lessons of the ship with us." Tolland studied the vision, his expression calm but intense. "It won't be easy. Change never is. But the ship has shown us the way. It has proven that intelligent life can thrive without destruction. Now it's our choice whether we follow that path." The explorers spent days discussing practical applications of the ship's teachings. They debated how humanity could improve cities, energy systems, education, and communication. They explored ways to resolve conflicts peacefully, share resources fairly, and cultivate curiosity and empathy in future generations. Each discussion strengthened their understanding and deepened their respect for the vessel guiding them. One day, The ship projected a vast map of star systems. Its light highlighted regions where civilizations had flourished, and others where species had declined due to misunderstanding or neglect. The explorers saw patterns emerge. Societies that valued cooperation survived and thrived. Those that relied on greed or aggression often faltered. The lesson was clear. Wisdom and empathy were not optional, they were essential for survival and growth. Ilara traced her finger along a cluster of star systems, imagining humanity spreading knowledge and compassion throughout the galaxy. "We can carry these lessons to other worlds," she said. "We can share what the ship has taught us, not through conquest, but through understanding and collaboration." Tolland placed a hand on her shoulder. "We are explorers. Yes. But now we are also ambassadors, guardians of knowledge and hope. We have the responsibility to guide, to teach, and to help wherever we can." The ship responded to their determination with a series of harmonic tones, a sound of approval and encouragement. Its hull glowed warmly, filling the chamber with a sense of purpose. Humanity was no longer merely a visitor, it was becoming a partner in the ongoing story of the universe. As the explorers prepared to leave the ship for the first time in weeks, they gathered in the main observation chamber. Outside, the planet glimmered under the morning sun. The ship's light pulsed in rhythm with its deep, sonorous hum, a sound that resonated with the explorers' own hearts. Ilara turned to the team. "We have learned from the past, observed the possibilities of the present, and glimpsed the future. The ship has given us more than knowledge. It has given us guidance and hope. Now it is up to us to make it real." The ship seemed to respond. A gentle vibration that flowed through the chamber, like a wave of encouragement. It had awakened. And in doing so, it had awakened humanity's potential. Over the following days, the explorers began implementing what they had learned. Small experiments in communication, problem-solving, and cooperation were conducted within their team. They discovered that even minor changes in perspective, listening before acting, sharing knowledge openly, considering the needs of others, could transform outcomes. The lessons of the ship were not theoretical, they were immediately practical. Ilara reflected on one particular vision the ship had shared, a species that faced extinction because its leaders had acted out of fear rather than understanding. The explorers realized that such mistakes could be avoided if humanity embraced the ship's teachings. Knowledge without application was incomplete. Wisdom was measured by the choices one made. Captain Tolland addressed the team one evening as they prepared for the journey back to their home systems. "The ship has shown us what is possible. It has shared lessons of the past and glimpses of what the future could be. Our task now is to carry those lessons forward, not as conquerors or rulers, but as stewards, teachers, and learners. Humanity has the chance to rise to its potential." The explorers felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just a group of individuals exploring space, they were bearers of knowledge, guardians of understanding, and examples of what humanity could achieve when guided by curiosity, empathy, and cooperation. Before leaving, the team spent one final day aboard the ship. They walked through chambers filled with light and harmonic vibrations, revisiting the visions that had inspired them. They touched the glowing consoles, allowing the energy of the vessel to flow through them one last time. The ship pulsed in response, acknowledging their growth and readiness. Ilara felt a profound sense of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand resting on a console. "Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your hope with us." The ship responded with a gentle, resonant hum, a sound that carried both farewell and encouragement. It had fulfilled its purpose, not only awakening humanity to the knowledge of the universe, but awakening humanity to itself. As the shuttle detached from the ancient vessel, the explorers gazed back at its massive hull. The sun illuminated the curves of the ship, highlighting its timeless beauty. Its light pulsed softly, like a living heartbeat, and the harmonic tones filled the shuttle with a sense of peace and purpose. Dr. Naeem looked at her team. "We have a responsibility now," she said, "not just to our own species, but to the universe. To share what we have learned, to build a future guided by understanding, and to honor the lessons the ship has taught us." Captain Talon nodded. We've been given a gift beyond measure, and with it comes duty. Humanity can rise to greatness, not through force, but through wisdom, curiosity, and care. The journey home was quiet, but not empty. Each explorer carried within them the light of the ancient ship, the lessons of countless civilizations, and the knowledge that humanity's future could be brighter than they had ever imagined. The ship's influence was subtle but profound. It had awakened them to possibilities, and now it was up to them to act. When they arrived in orbit around Earth, the explorers felt a renewed sense of wonder and responsibility. The planet looked small, but full of potential. Cities, oceans, forests, and deserts stretched across its surface, all waiting for humanity to rise to the challenges ahead. Alara stared out at the planet she had always known, but now saw it with new eyes. "We can do this," she said softly. "We can build a future that honors life, knowledge, and understanding. The ship has shown us what is possible, and now it is up to us to make it real." Captain Talon placed a hand on her shoulder. "And we will. Together." The team descended to Earth, carrying the lessons of the ancient ship with them. They shared the knowledge they had gained with scientists, educators, and leaders. Slowly, the principles of cooperation, empathy, and understanding began to influence how humanity approached problems, relationships, and exploration. Years passed, and humanity's progress reflected the lessons learned from the ship. Energy systems became sustainable. Cities were built in harmony with nature, and communication and collaboration improved across nations and cultures. The explorers watched with quiet pride as humanity took its first steps toward the vision the ship had shared, a vision of growth, understanding, and shared knowledge. And the ancient ship, drifting silently in the void, continued its journey. Its purpose fulfilled in one sense, it now waited, patient and eternal, ready to guide others who might come to learn, to awaken, and to grow. Alara often thought of the first day they had boarded the vessel. The sunlight had painted the hull in gold, the corridors had hummed softly, and the ship had welcomed them into its memory and wisdom. Now, looking back, she realized that the greatest gift the ship had given humanity was not knowledge or technology, but hope. The understanding that intelligence, curiosity, and empathy could shape the future of life across the stars. As the explorers gazed at the rising sun from Earth, they knew that humanity's journey had only just begun. The lessons of the ship would guide them for generations, shaping not only their technology and discoveries, but their values, their ethics, and their hearts. The ancient ship had awakened at sunrise, and in doing so, it had awakened humanity to its greatest potential. A new dawn had arrived, not just in the skies of distant planets, but in the minds and hearts of a species ready to explore, understand, and thrive among the stars. The universe was vast, but with curiosity, cooperation, and care, humanity could rise to meet it. And for the first time, they understood that the true journey was not measured in distance, speed, or conquest, but in wisdom, understanding, and the choices made along the way. The ship moaned softly one final time, a sound of contentment, hope, and unity. It was the voice of an ancient traveler, a teacher, and a friend. Humanity had listened, learned, and grown, and the stars awaited them, full of possibilities yet to be discovered.